We have lost many lives. We have lost everything that is healthy, that was healthy on the water system from the Michikamak in Cross Lake, Manitoba, northern Manitoba in Canada. We have experienced so much difficulty with hydro developments that are being built around our territory. We have lost many lives. We have lost everything that is healthy, that was healthy on the water system. Our children and grandchildren who do love swimming use the water system for swimming, even though some of us do not allow them to go there, they still do anyway. And they get scabs, rashes from the water system. Regardless though, with the showering and bathing, they still do get rashes and scabs. When our children get out of the water, when our grandchildren get out of the water, you can smell the unbearable odor on them. And as standing by the river system, you can smell the unbearable odor, and you cannot see through the water as we did when we were children. Remembering and reminiscing back to my days of my childhood, I used to go with my grandfather lifting his nets. When we went swimming, we saw fish underwater from afar, and we saw the glittering light of the sun on them. It was beautiful, very pristine. And when we played out by the lake swimming in the summertime, we ate from berries. We ate things that were edible in the water system. Today we cannot do that. Berries grow along the river system, many different kinds, and that's where we ate from when we were eating, when we were playing out by the lake swimming. That is all gone. There is some, but very little tiny dots, practically dots of those berries that we enjoyed and loved when we were children. Our water is so unhealthy. We cannot drink the water. We can, but it has to be treated. And when the water is being treated, you can smell the chemicals as you drink the water. We have E. coli on our northern Manitoba river systems. We lost a lot of people while doing what they love to do, hunting, fishing, trapping, gathering medicines. We have lost a lot of medicines that we used for our health, for our well-being when the water was clean, before Manitoba Hydro came and destroyed it. Our species that we ate had medicinal value on them. The sturgeon that is close to extinction now had a medicinal value of opening up arteries to the heart. And when all these foods are gone, all those the healthy nutrition is gone, we lost many people through diabetes, heart attacks, cancer. Yet, when we want to do something of research on these things, we can't, because we don't have the resources, financial resources to do it. Many people died in the river system in northern Manitoba. In our area, there's approximately 6 people who died, one who fell through hanging ice and into the river. People navigating rapids drown. People navigating the river system through slush die out there. So there are many hurting things, hurting problems, issues caused by Manitoba Hydro projects. We pay the price. Yes, the price of how much the hydro bills are extravagantly high, but we pay the price of losing our loved ones, losing our spiritual connection to the land, water that we dearly love, a place where our Creator put us to survive, and yet a corporation and the governments take that away from us through their policies. Blessings to everyone out there. We hear your story and you hear ours, and every one of them are not good for anybody here on earth. Ecocide, manto kay sanimikwa.
And we try to send a message to the people here in the United States that they need to understand when your governments present you the energy and then calling it clean and green energy and not knowing what's going on back in the Canada. It's where you need to find out the truth. What is clean energy? What is green energy? What does it do to the United States? It's a possibility you look at it as a clean and green energy because you're not destroying lands of indigenous people here in regards to a hydro dam. As a matter of fact, what I saw in some days here, some of the dams are being removed. And I wish we can do that back home, but as long as United States keep buying hydropower from either Manitoba Hydro or from Quebec Hydro, we pay the price, you know. And when we pay the price, I said, we are the ones who actually see that live in those devastated lands and waters.
Right.
And our people, for so many years, thousands of years, have lived off the land, free. You know, like they just go out there and do what they can do. But you take a look at the dams that are being built on our waters and our traditional lands. Your rights as a treaty rights or as indigenous rights or as sovereign rights to these particular areas, these particular lands, when you see being destroyed, you see your life as Pimitsikamak, okay, as a nation itself, living in this horrible place where dams are being built. Where I live, there's about 8 dams right across the Nelson River. And every day, every week, every month and years, every second, land falls to the water and creates a very horrific contamination of water, which we now are trying to figure out how we're going to deal with this. So the message we're trying to get through the United States is basically don't buy hydro energy, because all this is the same thing as tar sands. It's just the same thing as fossil fuels, okay? Because they're not clean. Graves are being flooded, and some of them have eroded out of the graves, and we can find skulls and bones of our ancestors underwater. And we have to move them up a little higher to the ground so they won't be exposed to fluctuations of the water. And it's basically at the same time, it's horrific for elders to see our bones scattered along the shorelines of our ancestors. And it's basically another way of destroying the history of people. Okay? By flooding the historical places where they have been. The other things, when they find artifacts about our people, and then when we try to claim them, those are our people, those are ancestors' artifacts. But the province comes around and said, no, it's the property of the province. And I said to myself, well, was the province here 2,000 years ago to be the property of the province? And he said, no. But then who is the owner of those artifacts that they could build their own museum so they could teach their kids where we come from as people, as humans, or as in the Hewak or Pipitsikamak people. That's who we are. That's another message we're trying to deliver to the United States, as to understand what corridors they're going to be building across to get hydropower from Quebec or hydropower from Manitoba Hydro. It is very important that they understand that it's not clean. It kills people. Our people have died out there exercising their right to hunt and fish. About 8 cases of people have died out there. For example, my brother and my stepbrother have died out there exercising their rights to able to understand, to able to go hunt, And for people here in the United States, between New York and Boston, need to understand that buying this power is basically participating in the act of cultural genocide of our people without having to understand what those issues back there in the shadows of these megadams.
Hi, my name is Denise Cole. I'm a land protector in Goose Bay, Labrador of mixed Inuit descent. I'm really honored that I've been given this opportunity to show solidarity and to speak to all of you today. It's hard to imagine this has been 50 years to commemorate the Day of Mourning. And what's known as a Thanksgiving, as a tradition for colonizers, really has been the story that too many of us know in Indigenous communities. And it's the story of being taken from, being treated less than, and losing land and culture and lives and language. So we try to think of all of the things that we mourn. I also think of the strength and the resiliency and how we've grown and how we continue, and how I know that our ancestors are watching and that they're proud of the stands that we're taking. And I know the next generations are going to benefit from the work that we are doing. Here in Goose Bay, Labrador, these are the traditional lands of the Inuit and the Innu. And they've been colonized as well. And there's many stories of resettlement and residential schools, and loss of language, and loss of culture, and loss of way of life. And we're still dealing with the repercussions from those losses. There's much to mourn. So healing journeys are happening. They're happening in these lands, and in your lands, and right across the globe. Mother Earth is bringing us together, I believe. We have major threats to water here in Labrador. Megadams being built on our rivers. Most recently, the one just upstream, just by 30 kilometers, just a few miles upstream from where I live, is Muskrat Falls. And this megadam has just wreaked havoc in many ways by things such as the loss of traditional food web that's been contaminated by methyl mercury. There's also instability issues that put us at risk downstream of potential flooding and even loss of life. I think a big thing that has spoken to to many of us, and certainly has been something that I've become very aware of, being involved as a land protector and in this movement of protection of land, water, lives, and culture, is that most of these colonized governments do not recognize, nor do they want to recognize, things like the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous People. And there's so many violations that are happening in order for corporations, companies, and governments to continue the land grabs and to continue the resource extraction and exploitation of our people, and to keep us in a place of deficit so that we are never truly nations of our own standing again. So I hope with actions like what you're doing there, what we're doing here, bring us together in a collective circle of protection, that Mother Earth continues to bond us and to show us our strength and resiliency, and to give us courage as we stand as land defenders and water protectors, nation to nation to nation. I'm really honored that I get a chance to speak. I hope that words take to action, and please know that the solidarity that I hold is one that's felt right across Mother Earth. And I say thank you, Nakamik, in my language, and know that I am there in spirit.
Okay, well, Cross Lake is central of Manitoba in Canada. It's a population of about 8,000. We are, many youth don't speak the language that I speak. They don't. Many youth don't trap. Many youth don't hunt or fish. But they are trying. So, you know, sagit no mini. I love you all. And yeah, Cross Lake is a very, very strong community when it comes to fighting hydro dams. When it comes to the time. And we always stand together when it comes to the time of engaging. But the youth over there are troubled. I can't really say troubled, but they are struggling to survive, I guess. They are struggling to keep our tradition and culture together. They are trying though, but it's really hard because of the hydro dams and the fluctuations of our waters over there. So the Genpig hydro dam is located about just a half hour outside of Cross Lake, maybe 40 minutes. So it's not far, it's just right there on our waters. It is very, it's not small, but it is medium-sized. They have about 5 doors that open up for the waters to go through, so the water flows. And the Genpig, we bumped heads with Genpig Manitoba Hydro before, and we got them evicted once. Our people got them evicted once, and they didn't like that so much. And now that we got them evicted, they have a little more respect for us, and hopefully there will be more tribes out there that can stand up to the dams and do what we did, and we encourage you to do that too. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, we stood up against them. It wasn't easy. We had our elders there. We had our children there. We had our mothers, our fathers, uncles, aunts, cousins. We had everybody there. We had our chief and council there. It was not an easy fight, but we did it. We got them evicted. Now they have a little more respect for us, and yeah, so forth, right? They, in a way, they are scared to engage, I can say, yes. We don't only hunt, trap, fish on one lake. There's multiple lakes that are connected to the Nelson River, which is where the dam is.
Right.
So, that being said, there are other places where it's shallow, where it's deep, so the water can go up to 12 feet high, 10, 8, you know, it's really devastating at times. They have not lived up to anything. We were supposed to be compensated for all the damages, but we haven't seen a penny. It's really expensive to buy food from the store, so we have to go out hunt, trap, and fish for our foods. And that's hard too, to do that because, well, when the water is up, the rapids are more violent. When the water's low, you can't even go through the rapids. And in the winter, the water comes up, the slush is there, people lose their machines, skidoos. Right. And when the water's low in the winter, there's gaps in the ice, so we have to go around, which is not really safe at all. So nobody wants to travel when the water fluctuates. I want to say hi to everybody in my territory. I've come down here for not just for my reserve, but for everybody, all our people on Turtle Island. We are one. Nobody's different. We are one. Let's stand together and fight this. Let's stand up against it. Let's let people know that we can do this. We are not alone. We have people from everywhere on Turtle Island that support us. We just gotta find each other, stand together, stick with each other. So that being said, please don't stop fighting.
My grandfather was a canoe maker, and a lot of the stuff was lost when the river up north was dammed up Churchill Falls. He lost a lot of stuff. He never ever went on the river again. I guess it was said that it brought back memories of their things being destroyed.
My father and his father were all Grand River trappers. The river is extremely important to us as part of our identity. The river forms part of our culture, part of our heritage. The river was really, in a sense, our livelihood. The picture behind me, it's where my father and his ancestors would trap, and this was the land that they lived in.
Rivers were like roads. I trapped from about 1936 till 1948. You lived off the land, no big job getting food. If you didn't get any fur, you didn't get anything. That was our goal.
Brutal work. It's slavery to get up through those rapids. In some cases, you can't even do it with your kennel full loaded. And the only place we had to sell fur to was at the Hudson Bay Company. And they always kept their prices to keep us just barely surviving. They would never let us get ahead. They did it purposely to keep the trappers under their thumb. There was no other way to make a dollar.
When the land is flooded, the rotting vegetation sets up a reaction with the mercury that's already naturally in the water, and it creates methylmercury. It's a lethal toxin. The fish become contaminated, and the whole food chain is affected. And in fact, humans, if they ingest too much methylmercury, can sustain brain damage. On Long Point, for instance, there's a sign warning us not to eat too much fish right now. I'm skeptical that they're going to cut the trees, for instance, cut all the bushes, cut all the willows. When that goes underwater, that naturally has to rot, and we're going to have those same methylmercury problems that we had in the Upper Churchill project. We just looked on Minipie Island, for instance, and found mountain maple. The only place in Labrador where mountain maple is found. That species is going to disappear. Succeeding governments have promised that they're going to clear cut the flooded areas. But having come down the river, you can see the steep forested hills that are there. And it boggles the mind how they're proposing to clear cut that area. I'm very skeptical. there's nothing to stabilize the land, and you're going to have more erosion. More erosion means more sedimentation. More sedimentation means more sandbars, more turbidity in the water, which has implications for everything in the ecosystem.
Right now, you can't eat the fish because it's mercury, and it's going to be the same thing here. It's going to be mercury-filled fish, and then it's going to go on to the animals that travel on the land.
Ulukut Tracy Vunga Inulisima Vunga Guspemi Ananaga Inulisima Yuk Malagani. Hi, I'm Tracy Doherty. I was born in Happy Valley Goose Bay here in Labrador, and my mother was born in Mulligan, which is up what's known now as the Hamilton Inlet, not far from Rigolet. It's in the Labrador Inuit settlement area, not quite in the land claims area, but sort of a portion of those land claims agreements. Back in 2016, I helped to protect the land and waters when the Muskrat Falls protection through Labrador Land Protectors was happening. Currently, I'm working on a project federally funded but provincial in scope, which is aimed at reducing the homelessness which Indigenous people are experiencing across the province. More particularly, I'm really interested in the homelessness that's occurring in this community where rental rates are through the roof. There is very little to rent. Housing costs are exorbitant. All of these have increased since the Muskrat Falls project, which was predicted by various groups that were concerned. And certainly in the joint review panel that happened back in 2011-2012 when those 84 recommendations were made and not met as to setting some baseline data regarding community well-being so that it could be tracked what the impacts were from development. We are certainly seeing, though, the negative impacts. And what particularly interests me as I'm working on this project is certainly, housing and homelessness is really being featured nationally since COVID hit, and that's sort of been a silver lining, I guess, to the cloud that it's pointing out some issues that needed to be addressed. In the larger hubs, of course, homelessness has been happening for a long time. We really had not experienced this phenomenon to the degree that's occurring now. The gap between haves and have-nots has really grown. And the thing is, here in our community, most of the people that are earmarked or identified using these terms homeless or transient are the Inuit and the Innu. And how can we be homeless or transient on our homelands? So we're sort of at an origin point of these social phenomena occurring. So I think we have the opportunity to address them now. So I'm very thankful that there are a variety of initiatives happening because Indigenous people are becoming more empowered. Our land claims processes are somewhat controversial because they are always based on, the agreements that the government will get to develop our lands. Yet at the same time, we have to take the good with the bad there and see that we're gaining ground in promoting our worldviews, which certainly include distribution of wealth and resources among all the people, because that's how human beings have survived, is through that kind of cooperation. Sorry about that, I got a little distracted when someone came to the door. Yeah, so we are gaining a voice, and we are our worldview, which is very different from that which the Euro worldview that we encountered at contact was. We're learning more about ourselves and how we are connected to each other and how we are still connected to the land and how we need to protect it and our waters. So I'm very grateful that organizations like NAMRA are helping to promote this Indigenous Day of Mourning. It's a very welcomed gathering, and I'm happy to add my voice. So I'm there with you, and please know that we're part of the fight. Thanks. Nakumi Swak.
And God, they make it hard to live. They make it hard. They make it hard to survive, to get the fish, to get the moose, the ducks, and the geese. But we're going to risk our lives, and we're going to keep going. Because we saw a dam that was decommissioned, a new English word I learned. It was decommissioned and it no longer exists, and 20 years later the fish are coming back.
Land of boundless beauty, where the untamed rivers run, and majestic snow-capped mountains rise to meet the morning sun. There are silent, sunlit valleys, undiscovered, unexplored. It's a home for free of spirit. It's a land called Labrador. Legends of our people spoken in the language of the land tell of hard times and endurance strangers would not understand, as they trekked across the tundra from the highlands to the shore. Promise of the land is broken, and our people suffered more. Let her mountains shine and glory, let her unspoiled waters flow, let her children live in freedom in the valleys of the snow. Lift your voices, sons and daughters, like you've never done before. Let your song rise through the darkness in this land called Labrador. Lift your voices, sons and daughters, like you've never done before. Let your song rise through the darkness in this land called Labrador. In this land called Labrador.